Good afternoon, everyone. I cordially welcome you all for the second lecture of the short course on cultural linkages towards an Asian ideology 2023 to 2024. Today, our focus lies on the theme of regional integration and economic cooperation in Asia. Our schedule for today is as follows. We have a 45-minute lecture planned, followed by a brief 5-minute break. After the break, we will resume with another 30 minutes of the lecture. And finally, we will engage in a question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce our distinguished guest lecturer, Senior Professor Anoma Abayarathna. Professor Abayarathna is a senior professor in economics at the Department of Economics and Statistics at the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka. Her impressive academic credentials includes a PhD in economics from the University of Essex, UK, an MA in econometrics from the same institution, an MPhil in agricultural economics from the University of Peradeniya, and a BA with honors in economics, also from the University of Peradeniya. Professor Abayarathna brings a wealth of experience to her role, with many years of university-level teaching and research. Her career highlights include serving as the Dean of the Faculty of Arts at the University of Peradeniya, as well as holding visiting professor positions at prestigious institutions such as the University of Rouen in France, the University of Brasov in Romania, and the South Asia University in India. She has also contributed as a visiting research fellow at the University of Essex in the UK and the University of Malaya in Malaysia. Madam, we are profoundly honored to have you here with us today, and we warmly welcome you to deliver this lecture on regional cooperation and economic development in Asia. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm very happy to meet you all. Thank you very much for attending the lecture. The topic that I'm going to talk about is, let me go to the sorry about that. My topic is regional integration and economic development in South Asia, development in Asia. This is the outline. First, I would like to introduce Asian economies. Then we briefly talk about economic integration in Asia. For the quality of the connection, I would like to turn off my video. Then I talk about importance of integration for Asia. What are the challenges? Then summary and conclusion. To start with introduction to Asian economies, if we look at Asia, it consists of 51 countries and 6 sub-regions like Northern Asia, Central Asia, Western Asia, Southern Asia, Eastern Asia, and Southeast Asia. Among those 51 countries, largest are China and India. Out of the total population, Asia is home to 62.4% of world population. Out of that, 18.2% live in China and 17.8% in India. If we take Asia as sub-regions, in South Asia, 1/4 of the world population, or 24% of the world population, live in South Asia. World Bank classified countries according to their per capita income. Per capita income, I think you all know, it is gross domestic product or national income divided by mid-year population. That is income per person. According to that classification, there are 11 high-income countries in Asia. Only 5.4% of total population in Asia live in high-income countries. That include Bahrain, Brunei Darussalam, Cyprus, Hong Kong, China, Israel, Japan, Republic of Korea, Kuwait, like that. And in upper middle income countries, there are 16, including Armenia, Azerbaijan, China, Georgia, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Thailand. You can see that nearly half of the population in Asia lives in upper middle income countries. And another 46.5% of population lives in lower middle income countries. There are 16 countries, including Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, Egypt, and you can see that Sri Lanka is also in lower middle income group. The low income countries in Asia include 6 countries like Afghanistan, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, that is North Korea, Nepal, Syria, Tajikistan, and Yemen. Only 2.5% of the population, Asian population, live in those low-income countries. For your information, this is how the World Bank classifies countries according to per capita income. This is in 2022. They update this every year and announce it on July 1st. Countries that has per capita income less than $1,085 are considered as low income, while between 1,086 to 4,255 are lower middle income countries. Upper middle income countries are those with per capita income between 4,256 and 13,000. About 13,200 are called high-income countries. You may remember that about 3-4 years ago, Sri Lanka was upgraded to upper middle income country, but with the economic crisis, we are again in a lower middle income country. If we look at Asia, the basic facts, a considerable living standard and well-being in terms of Human Development Index. Human Development Index is a composite index calculated using 3 major indicators. That is life expectancy for health, mean years of schooling for education, gross national income per capita for standard of living. So based on that, Asia has a considerable living standard and well-being. Countries like Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and most of the East Asian countries have a very good, comparably good living standards and well-being. Only 11 low and middle income economies show growth rates below 4%. Sri Lanka was not in that group before, but with the economic crisis, in 2022, our growth rate fell down to minus 7.8. We are recovering now, though still at a very low rate of growth. Asian countries account for nearly 40% of global exports and imports. This is South Asia. You can see that there are 8 countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, India, Maldives, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. South Asia, I like to talk about South Asia as it is more relevant to us. It can be considered as one of the most dynamic regions in the world. You may have heard from news that India has achieved very high growth rates. Bangladesh and Pakistan are growing fast. Maldives is doing well. Not only that, this can be considered as a challenge. It is home to 1.4 billion people. 23% of world population live in South Asia. I think this should be 24%. South Asian countries are rich in human resources and sophisticated skills. People in countries like Sri Lanka, our literacy rates are comparable to that of developed countries. And you may know that the people in India are very good in IT field. Most of the IT jobs in the world are done by Indian labor. They are all over the world. They are very good with IT and related sophisticated skills. Scientific and technological accomplishments are world-class. During last 10 years, India and other countries in South Asia have experienced impressive growth rates. So we all know that India is becoming a global center for IT. Not only that, India is producing very highly goods and goods for very high reputed companies like Audi, BMW, and many in electrical and electronic industry. Countries in South Asia have entered into trade agreements among the countries in the region, like SAARC. SAARC is an association for economic and cultural activity, association. SEPTA, they have entered into trade agreements like SEPTA and SEFTA and other bilateral agreements with regional members. Sri Lanka has bilateral trade agreements with India, India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement, and another agreement with Bangladesh. There are a number of bilateral agreements in addition to regional agreements of SEPTA and SEFTA. With all these good things, we have to accept that we have some grim realities. South Asia is the poorest region in the world. We are ranked very low in terms of human well-being. Poor nutrition is the major cause of this. We may not see it in Sri Lanka, but in countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, Nepal, there are very large groups of people in severe poverty. In South Asia, about 540 million people, that is 5% of the population, they live in poverty. Poverty is measured as people who earn less than $1 a day. They are considered as poor. Now, at the current rate, $1 is like 340 rupees. If people, according to World Bank classification, people who earn less than $1 a day are considered as poor. This percentage, that is 45% of the people are poor, this percentage is higher than in Sub-Saharan Africa, East Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Pacific region. If we compare South Asia with Southeast Asia, you can see that per capita income of Singapore in 2020 is 58,484. This is in dollars. And Brunei, 23,000, Malaysia, 10, like that. The richest in the South Asia, that is Maldives, their per capita income is 12,000. Sri Lanka, 3,698. All the other countries less than that. Poorest is Afghanistan, only per capita income of $499. If we compare these per capita incomes with the other countries in the world, to have some idea, in 2022, US per capita income, that is income per person, average income per person, is 76,399. You can compare it with Nepal, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and India. So you can see the difference. In Asia, Japan has the highest per capita income, that is 33,815. In these high-income countries, you can see that life expectancy, that is the expected number of years when a person is born. In US, 78.9. It is higher in Japan, 84.5. In Nepal, it's 59.6. Sri Lanka has the highest life expectancy in South Asian countries. It is 76.8. Mean years of schooling in US, it is 13.4. Japan, 12.8. Again, you can see that Sri Lanka's mean years of schooling is higher than other Asian countries, 10.9. Recent developments in South Asian countries. In the last few years, some of the countries in South Asia has started to grow rapidly, like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Now, South Asia has become the fastest growing region in the world. According to the predictions of World Bank, South Asia may be able to extend leader over East Asia and the Pacific regions. We hope for that. And almost all the countries are open to the world. Before 70s, most of these countries had inward-looking policies. That is, they tried to produce the goods and services within and tried to substitute imports. Instead of importing from other countries to produce them, it was not a growth rate of Sri Lanka was very, very low. That is, I remember that is between 1970 to 77. Therefore, new government in Sri Lanka, which came to power in 1977, they introduced open economic policies, opened the country to the world. India and other countries opened their countries to the free trade and to the world after that, after 1977. However, now all the countries in South Asia are open to all the other countries in the world. They all engage in trade with other countries. They export their and import from other countries. Not only that, we know that people in Sri Lanka go to Middle East to work, to South Korea or other countries. We provide services to other countries, and some companies from other countries come and invest in Sri Lanka. This is not only happening in Sri Lanka, this happens all over Asia. South Asia is currently the second fastest growing region in the world because growth rate has increased after 1990s and almost 7% during early years of 2000. After 2009, average is around 6%. These high growth rates are mainly due to the opening up of the economies, among other factors. After 1980s and 1990s, these countries implemented trade and investment reforms. This has increased region's level of global integration. That is, trade and foreign direct investment have grown consistently since then. I think you know what do we mean by foreign direct investments. That is, foreign companies can come and invest in Asian countries. So they bring the capital that is required for investment. Countries like ours, poor countries, we do not have enough capital to invest. These companies come with not only with capital, they bring technology. When these large companies produce in those countries, small or poor countries, they have access to developed markets. Now we export clothes, shoes to US, UK, and to the Europe. So we reach those markets through those foreign direct investments. I briefly talk about trade theory. Free trade means a trade between countries without any barriers. Trade barriers can be tariff, or we call them custom duties, tariff, or quotas. The free means trade, countries allow exports and imports without those barriers. That will provide its citizens the opportunity to have access to larger markets for the goods that they produce and sell into the other countries and buy better products from other countries. There are a number of benefits of trade. It allows countries to specialize in the manufacture and export of products that can be produce most efficiently in that country. When we opened the economy to other countries in 1977, we know that there were many investors come and open garment factories in our country. Why they came here? Because labor is cheaper than other countries. Therefore, they can make more profit. But now they are taking those investments into other countries like Bangladesh or African countries where labor is more cheaper. In Sri Lanka, now labor is much cheaper compared to other countries. So trade allows countries to produce most efficiently. That means using less resources and in a way to make more profit. The pattern of international trade displays patterns that are easy to understand. We can see that Saudi Arabia or the Middle East countries produce oil. Mexico produce labor-intensive goods. But it is not easy to understand how Japan is producing cars. We know that Japan is a small country. They do not have much resources, natural resources, but they have a very good car market. They are the top car producers in the world. So those things are not easy to understand. Theory of absolute advantage by the economist called Adam Smith. It says trade is beneficial when a country produces more of a product with the same amount of input than another country. So they produce only goods where you are most efficient. Most efficient means you should be produce more with the same amount of input. So if you can do that, trade between countries would be beneficial. Other trade theory is the theory of comparative advantage by David Ricardo. It says that trade is mutually beneficial even if one country is more efficient than another. According to that principle, each nation should specialize in production of those goods for which it is relatively more efficient with a lower opportunity cost. The previous theory talked about absolute advantage, but this theory says the country should produce what they are comparatively good at producing. There were many trade theories later on. This is the latest. Next, we talk about economic in Asia. What do we mean by regional integration? It is a process in which neighboring countries enter into an agreement in order to upgrade cooperation through common institutions and rules. A group of countries get together and form a group and agree on certain principles. Examples are European Union. European Union, they are a group of European countries. Now they use only one currency, euro. They have no barriers to move around those countries. From Germany to France or Germany to Italy to any other European countries, people can freely travel. Even for us, if we get Schengen visa, there is no restriction to which European country that you can travel. With that visa, you can travel all over Europe. There is no place to stop you and check your passport. And they use one currency, that is euro. The advantage is, so they can easily produce the things that they can produce most efficiently. Therefore, they can sell that to others and buy what they want from those countries that produce that goods at a lower cost. Benefits of regional integration. One is economic growth. So through that efficiency, they can produce more with available resources. Economies of scale. When countries get together, they form a larger market. Larger firms can raise output and lower their long-run average cost. I come to that in the next slide. Standard of living. When there are large groups of countries get together and act as one country, people live in those countries have access to larger range of goods and services. They have more choices and higher quality products due to increased competition. Because it's a large market, so many producers, so they have to compete with each other. As a result, they produce quality products. So that will improve living standards of people living in those countries. Similar to EU, in Asian countries, we have ASEAN and NAFTA. This is a very simple example that describes comparative advantage. Here we consider two countries, Bangladesh and India, and they suppose that they produce only cotton and textile fibers. If Bangladesh needs 4 units of labor to produce 1 unit of cotton, while India needs only 2 units of labor to produce 1 unit of cotton. Bangladesh with need 1/4 units of labor to produce textile fibers. Therefore, it is better Bangladesh produce textile fibers. If we compare Bangladesh and India, you can see that India can produce cotton more efficiently than Bangladesh, because Bangladesh needs 4 units of labor to produce 1 unit of cotton, where India needs only 2. So if Bangladesh has low opportunity cost of producing textile fibers and India has low opportunity cost of producing cotton, they should specialize in rather than producing both cotton and textile fibers. Therefore, by producing according to comparative advantage, they can benefit from that production. Economies of scale are the benefits of producing in large scale. When producing goods or services in large scale, producers can reduce long-run average cost, per unit cost. For example, you know that in our garment factories, suppose that they produce a shirt. One shirt is not produced by one worker. They have production lines. In one line, they produce collar, one line produce the sleeve, one line produce the back or front, the pocket. By doing that, the workers get practice. We call it specialization. So they will be more productive. When they do that, they can use their machines more efficiently. That will reduce their average cost. Their average cost. So when firms improve their scale of production, their average cost decreases. The benefits of that is called economies of scale. So when countries integrate, when they get together and produce, they can produce in large scale and can gain benefits of economies of scale. Standard of living means level of wealth, comfort, material goods and necessities available to a certain socioeconomic class in a certain geographic area. It is directly related to the quality of life. Normally, it is measured as real national output per head of population of real GDP per capita. When countries engage in trade, they can benefit from cheaper imports, wider choice of products, and higher quality output. Therefore, that will improve standard of living of the people in those countries. What do we mean by regional economic integration? That is free flow of trade in goods and services, investment, capital and financial flows, movement in people within a region. Now we do that with India, Bangladesh, and some other countries. We import and export some of the goods without tariff, that is taxes, import and export taxes, and in some cases, low rates of taxes. Those firms in those countries are permitted to invest in other countries, which allow capital and financial flows and movement of people within a region. You may remember that there was an agreement between India and Sri Lanka. I think name was EDCA. When it was proposed to allow movement of services, movement of workers, and people in Sri Lanka was very worried about it, and they were not happy about it. Therefore, government had to stop it. But if movement of people allow within a region, countries can benefit from it. Regional economic integration, agreements among countries in a geographic region to reduce and ultimately remove tariff and non-tariff barriers to the free flow of goods, services, and factors of production among each other, like what happened in European Union. If all South Asian countries can get together and remove all the taxes and non-tariff barriers and allow free flow of goods, services, and factors of production, according to the theory, we can improve our living standards and income. But we have to be very careful. Our neighbor, India, is a very large country. The population, production of goods, all are much larger than ours. So our small market in our small country can can get adversely affected with larger market. But we may be able to get cheaper products. Integration, we can identify 5 levels like free trade area, customs unions, common market, economic union, and political union. That explains it more. Free trade is a very low level of integration. That is the reduction of tariff between members. When custom unions come to custom unions, it includes free trade plus common external tariff. There are some group of countries, they do not have tariff inside, but to other countries, they have common tariff rate. Common market is including free trade, custom union, and free movement of capital and services. So in free trade and custom unions, only movement of goods and services are allowed. When go to common market, it includes movement of capital services. Economic union is no barriers for internal trade, free movement of labor, harmonized tax rates, common monetary and fiscal policy, like EU. Common political union that has a common government as well. For EU countries, they have EU Parliament, European Parliament, in addition to parliaments in each of those countries. Why countries want to integrate? What is the need for for regional integration? It stimulates economic growth in countries. In the current world, it is very difficult for a country to work alone without interacting with the outside world. It is not possible. And regional integration allows countries specialized in those goods and services efficiently produce. Yes, this is where I stopped. There are political reasons for economic integration. When there is economic interdependence, it creates incentives for political cooperation and reduces potential for violent confrontation. For that reason also, countries integrate. A good example is the way that we work with India. They are politically and economically more powerful than us. So sometimes to keep them in good relation with us, we agree to some of the conditions. Together, the countries have the economic clout to enhance trade with other countries or trading blocs. If we look at Asian integration, this is the summary. I couldn't find recent data from 2001 to 2018. Trade within Asian region has increased from 53% to 58%. Foreign direct investment from 41% to 48%. Equity, that is shares, from 12% to 18%. Debt, 8% to 17%. And tourist arrivals from 75% to 80%. I think now it is more, even to Sri Lanka, most of the tourists, now we receive tourists from neighboring countries. Economic integration in Asia, mainly based on trade in goods and services, than any other form of economic integration. It is very easy to measure trade when we trade only goods and services. We can use it to assist in gaining an understanding of the nature of Asian economic integration more broadly and how it might differ from patterns in the rest of the world. Within Asia, intra-regional means within the countries, Asian countries, exports are 54%, 54.6% of the region's total exports. That is in 2018. Intra-regional imports, it accounted for 62.6%. So we can see that most of the exports and imports of the region are exchanged within the region. This is the regional economic integration. So this gives us a percentage of total imports and exports. This is inter-regional trade share of Asia, EU, and North America. Highest is EU, lowest is Asia without China. However, in this Asian region, we saw that economic integration was powerful tool. But if we take South Asian sub-region, has not able to receive the most of the benefits of this potential. South Asia is the least integrated in the region, with interregional trade accounting only 6.1% of total trade in 2015, which is very low in comparison to 27% in its ASEAN. Why South Asia cannot cooperate with other countries in Asia and benefit from those opportunities? It is partly due to trade barriers, infrastructural deficits, and chronic political differences. When there are political differences in those countries, it is not easy to work with. Not only that, in South Asian countries, the procedures are very complicated, long, even for people to trade with other countries, they have to fill forms, wait in loan queues, loan delays in approvals, and also there are people who bribe. So these are problems faced by other countries when entering into trade with South Asian countries. These countries have much to gain from sharing resources and knowledge and deepening economic integration. South Asian countries have established associations for regional cooperation. First, SAARC. There are 8 member countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. I have given the details in the right-hand side. You can read them later. Then SAFTA is South Asian Free Trade Agreement, signed in 2006. SAFTA is a commitment towards top-down reduction of tariff, but these were not successful. Then there was another initiative, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, that is called BIMSTEC. It has 7 members, and it was initiated from India's Look East policy and Thailand's Look West policy. BIMSTEC is working fine, but it is very difficult to see whether Sri Lanka has benefited much from that initiative. Then South Asia Sub-Regional Economic Cooperation, SASEC. The secretariat of this agreement is Asian Development Bank. In 2004, SAFTA was established. It was expected to implement a borderless, that means without tariff and other taxes, economic zone, and facilitate trade in goods between those countries. However, the trade in South Asia was less than 1/3 of its potential. Because of trade barriers, including high trade cost, as well as the lack of capacity to supply goods being demanded by neighboring countries, have contributed to unexploited trade potential in the sub-region. If we look at patterns of trade in South Asia, trade in South Asia has grown faster than GDP, with an increase in the trade to GDP ratio. You can see that it has nearly doubled. It emerged as one of the key drivers of growth in the region. And the region recorded fastest increase in exports to GDP. Imports have also grown faster. Trade in services has grown faster than its trade in goods. So it reflects a transformation in the service industry. The pattern shown in this graph, you can see that imports have increased and exports have also increased. Free trade agreements in Asia, there are 4 free trade agreements discontinued. 167, that is a lot. 167 trade agreements are signed and in effect. And 13 are signed but not yet in effect. There are negotiations for 83 and 5 signed free trade agreements. Next, we look at why trade is important for this integration is important for Asia. Because of the benefits of regional integration, it can help increase in economic growth and reducing poverty. And it acts as a buffer against spillover effects of the rising global tensions. When there is a war in the Middle East, we know that we find difficulties in getting oil and some other products. When there is recession in the US, we also get affected from that. When we have regional integration, it can act as a buffer and protect those countries. Because of global integration, there are widening income inequality, and high-income countries take more advantage. So for the poor countries in Asia can benefit from integration. One is trade creation. When there are no barriers to trade are removed, is expected volumes of trade will increase. These 2 graphs shows that the relationship between real GDP and trade volumes. Trade volumes means exports plus imports. For Asia, you can see that growth and trade have moved all together. Whenever trade increases, growth has also increased. Whenever growth goes down, trade goes down, growth has the same pattern. Even for the world, there is the same pattern. So there is a relationship between trade and growth. This is exports and imports of goods and services as a percentage of GDP. So you can see that over the years, how it has increased. Global and regional value chains, that is exports that go through two or more economies for further production. In the current global world, only one company or in one country do not produce one product. For example, if we take Toyota cars, they have a chain of producers. Certain parts of the car is produced in different places and assembled in another place. Those are we call them global value chains. So with the increased integration, global and regional value chains can improve, and most of the countries participating in those global value chains can benefit. I do not discuss global value chains, but I will share the slides with all details. This graph shows the movement of regional value chains and global value chains intensity in Asia, Europe, and North America. In EU, it has gone down. However, in North America and Asia, it has improved. What are the challenges for regional integration in Asia? Groups within countries may be hurt. It might not lead to benefits for all economies or for everyone in an economy equally. A good example is integration with India. India and Sri Lanka may not benefit in the same way, and everyone in one country will not benefit in the same way. Some people may lose while some others benefit from it. It can be a potential loss of sovereignty and control over domestic issues. So there is a debate whether we need integration, whether integration is creating trade or diverting trade. Diverting means trade that is already taking place in one place will be diverted into the region. Trade creation is creating new trade volumes because of integration. So there is a debate whether integration is creating trade or diverting trade. Another challenge is persistent global trade tensions. US-China trade war. Then we had COVID-19. So this can affect the confidence of participants in integration. And there is a rise in anti-globalization, anti-immigration, and strong nationalistic sentiments. Like Brexit, England wanted to separate from EU because they wanted to preserve their values and the trade patterns Then US elections show you can see that why they vote for a president, the main reasons that they consider. These are, so we can see that anti-globalization, anti-immigration tensions in the world. And another one, especially for Asian countries, similarities in export. All countries in South Asia export similar products. And trade can divert trade away from efficient non-members to efficient, inefficient members. If we are trading with, suppose, Belgium, and it is efficient as a region, if we want to move away from Belgium and bring it to the region of South Asia, it can be a movement from efficient non-member to inefficient member. It can reduce benefits of trade. And poorly designed free trade agreements based on political agenda, those are challenges. And open regionalism. So these countries too are not able to conclude binding formal arrangements that favor regional partners. There are many other factors affect that. And there are trade barriers. Non-tariff means other than taxes, there are other barriers. Waiting times in imports, custom regulations. High level of informal border trade, like shared, because of shared history, culture, languages, and proximity. It can happen. High cost of intra-regional trade, cost of trading with South Asia remain high, making trading with neighboring nations more expensive or less competitive compared to trading with distant partners. I show that in this slide. You can see that even within Asia, some modes of transport can be like that in a very poor situation, where countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia have very good transport systems and roads. In Bangladesh, India, Nepal, poor roads, very bad vehicles and transport systems, it can affect trade. So there are a number of measures that we can take. Number one is transport connectivity. We need improvements in cross-border connectivity. It can benefit South Asian countries beyond just economic gains. In addition to the direct impact of trade and economic growth, it would have several unintended benefits, such as opening up possibilities for production networks and value chains, enhancing the competitiveness of final products from the region on world markets, etc. In South Asia, we can see that there are improvements in transport infrastructure, but still there are many difficulties in cross-border transport facilitation. Still there are much progress is needed. And energy connectivity, this section I quickly finish. ICT and people-to-people connectivity needs improvements. And we have to address shared vulnerabilities like natural disasters, and we need greater policy focus for reducing mortality risk and asset losses out of natural calamities. Regional cooperation is required to combat climate change, food security, and infrastructural devastation. So we know that large proportion of world population live in Asia, especially in South Asia. Among them, there are large proportion who are chronically malnourished. So creating food security and eradicating hunger are key development challenges. Greater regional cooperation can reduce food price volatility and focus production systems to bridge the gap between supply and demand. So what is the way forward? So we can make use of the opportunities to overcome challenges. Through regional integration, we can benefit from trade, investment, and growth opportunities. There are much untapped potential. Promoting greater regionalism is crucial in addressing challenges, as this creates opportunities to harness the spillover benefits of India growth success. India is a large country with great economic power. They have to take on a disproportionately larger responsibility for promoting regional cooperation in South Asia. Okay, I have summarized what I talked about. Okay, I stop at that point. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to extend my gratitude through this vote of thanks on behalf of the students participating in the short course on cultural linkages towards an Asian ideology for the academic year 2023 and 2024. First and foremost, I would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed lecturer, Senior Professor Anoma Abayarathna, for generously sharing her time and invaluable knowledge with us today. Madam, your contribution to this cause is a true blessing, and we are profoundly grateful. I would also like to extend our thanks to Dr. Hemantha Premaratna and the team of the staff at the Department of Social Sciences of KDU who worked together to bring these enlightening lectures today. Last but certainly not least, I extend our appreciation to all the participants from our university who joined us for this event. Your active engagement has not only made this lecture a resounding success, but has also provided you with valuable insights into the topic of conclusion. I wish to express our deep gratitude to Senior Professor Anoma Abayarathna for her unwavering commitment, as this makes her fourth consecutive year contributing to our cause. Madam, it is a distinct honor to have you amongst us, and we deeply appreciate the time and effort you have invested in enriching our educational experience.